Hi, Mithos here, and welcome to Time Chunk, where I restrict my access to a RuneScape game chunk for 8 hours. If I pass all of its objectives within this time, I unlock the chunk permanently. If I fail, I lose access to it. No time to waste, the clock is running, let's go. Welcome to this new game mode. I've been theory crafting this for a while, and it's time to share this journey with you. Let me briefly go over the rules while you see me completing Tutorial Island. The setup is pretty simple. I roll an adjacent chunk every 8 hours of in-game time. If all chunk tasks are completed in those 8 hours, I unlock the chunk permanently. This means I keep it unlocked when new content enters the chunk. I will work on such backlog content whenever I have time left. If I fail, I will lock the chunk for 5 or 10 rolls. Initially I will choose 5 rolls when having less than 10 rollable chunks, and 10 rolls if I have more than 10 chunks to roll. I will do this to keep the chunks interesting and not too repetitive. I will follow the chunk picker Xtreme Chunker rule set, which most chunkmen will use. This includes skill capes, for example. Finally, no editing of passive levels, so no lamp quests or temporary chunks. This means that I will not edit levels in the chunk picker, as this will lead to strange situations. For example, if I would unlock Herblore or Hunter in a chunk that I fail, many unlocked chunks would suddenly have new grinds, such as a high level potions or catching implings. I want my chunk task in the chunk picker to be empty before on every new roll, so I can easily keep track of what I actually need to do. So, why this game mode? Well, first of all, I think it's fun. I love the chunk idea, but wanted a different spin on it. It is also more varied because new content can be unlocked every 8 hours. This also means consistent uploads. Having consistent rolls means regular new content to upload. Finally, a lot of chunkers need to make exceptions to avoid certain grinds that might be meme grinds or something else. This game mode is especially designed to avoid exactly that. So in spirit of avoiding exceptions, I will simply start in the Lumbridge chunk where I spawn. Now with a full-time job, my own time is also limited. I love playing this account and want to share its progress, but I can't spend days editing footage and videos. So what I'm going to do in this series is simply show sped up footage of each chunk while talking about my strategy and progress in it. I'm sure there's a lot of content creators that can do a far better job than me, and I hope some of them will adopt this game mode and make some interesting content. Alright, let's start. Here's a list of all the tasks that I need to complete in this chunk. I'm not going to name all of them, but feel free to pause the video if you want to take a look. There are some easy ones such as pickpocketing a citizen, but there's also very long ones like 99 woodcutting and 99 defense. Spoiler alert, I won't be able to do all of them in 8 hours. By the way, you can see how long I am in a chunk by the timer above the chat box. This plugin is not always perfect, but it gives a rough indication of how far I am in the chunk. The first game plan is to get enough money to buy everything that we need from Bob's axes, which is a steel axe and a mithril battle axe. The strategy for this is pickpocketing men until I'm low HP, and then do some woodcutting and fletching in between. I found that there are some cows wandering in my chunk and I will kill them whenever I see them. The hides might be useful for crafting and the meat for cooking. Raw beef can also be used to make crossbow strings and tank crafting, so it might be useful to hold on to them as well. I've also picked up the free runes every 30 minutes to get some nice magic levels. After buying an iron battle axe with my starter money, I wanted to do some first combat training. The best NPC to train are our goblins, first of all because they have, I believe, some negative attacks, so they barely hit you. And the second reason, they drop both beginner and easy clues, and they're dropping them at a better rate than the men do. The clues can have a lot of nice upgrades. I think at the start, especially an air staff will be valuable. There's also a chance on some black equipment, also a black axe and a black pickaxe, so anything to get clues would be valuable. I was also extremely lucky with my imp kills. I need an egg and a pot of flour for Cook's assistant, and they're at 1 in 25 and 1 in 64 drop rate respectively. I got both drops in only 2 kills, which is insanely lucky. Later I actually found out that I also needed a wizard head from imps, and I got it immediately as well. So 3 drops from 3 imps, I don't know what to say, it was insane. I spent a lot of time training my combat skills on the goblins and hoping to get a few good clue drops. Unfortunately, I only managed to get 2 drops, and I really wanted to get the third one, so I spent especially much time on that. I also got a few random events, nothing too exciting. I only had one lamp, which I put in Hunter. I'm not 100% sure what I want to spend my lamps on, but Hunter is always a good skill because it's extremely difficult for Junkman to train. Eventually I got a Mithril battle axe and I wanted to test my luck on men. Unfortunately they still crushed me, so I needed to train my combat skills up to 20 with goblins. After that I could take on the men and get the 1 in 64 bronze med helm drop. One thing I could do in this chunk is train crafting with these sheep that are in the small part of my corner. This is extremely slow because each ball of wool only gives 2.5 experience. However, there are some nice unlocks at level 5 and level 10 respectively. At level 5 I can make gold bars, and at level 10 I could make a crossbow string with the raw beef that I got from cows. However, I found out that it took way too long to train crafting all the way up to level 10, so I stopped at level 5. Because I was very certain that I was gonna fail this chunk because there's no way I could get 99 woodcutting and defense, I already looked a little bit at other chunks and what I needed to do there. Specifically, I wanted to get 15 thieving so I could steal from Ham Followers, which is a chunk to the west. And I also wanted to get the 5 crafting because that would allow me to make gold bars if I roll to the desert to the east. In the final 30 minutes I tried to kill some more goblins for the 3rd beginner's clue. However, it did not appear to be needed because I got a casket in 2 rolls. It contained a black robe and leather chaps, not amazing but not too bad either. They were both best in slot for magic and range respectively. In the final hour I also collected some items, some logs, wool, beer and other stuff that might be needed for quests. I also got a few of each basic tool as a backup. Because I was certain I was gonna fail the chunk and lose access to a bank, I need to bring some basic stuff in my inventory for the next chunk. So that's it for the first chunk. Overall I'm very satisfied. We were never going to complete this anyway in 8 hours, but we managed to get most of the tasks done. We also got over 180 levels in this chunk, and I don't think I will actually be able to beat that in another single chunk. So here's the chunk map after the first chunk. The red 5 in Lumbridge indicates that I will not be able to roll it for the next 5 rolls, because I did not manage to do all of the Lumbridge chunk tasks. This also means I don't really have an unlocked base starting chunk yet. Anyway, let's briefly talk about the 4 rollable chunks. Chunk 1 on the east will require 30 thieving for the quest of feud. There's only men to pickpocket here, giving me 8 experience each, but it should be manageable to do within the 8 hours. Chunk 2 to the south will require 90 mining. I won't need to do this with a bronze pickaxe because there's nothing else available to me, and I need 90 mining because there's a shooting star spawn. Chunk 3 to the west of here has a 72 fletching grind as well as a 60 wood cutting and 65 making grind, because I can cut yew logs and make a yew shield. The rest of the items are based on member pickpocketing, so it should not be too difficult, but the 72 fletching grind especially will be very tedious and long. Finally, chunk 4th to the north, I will go to the eastern largest section of that chunk if I roll that. This has a 48 cooking grind to churn cheese. There's some chickens there, so I think this might be doable to do in the 8 hours. So overall I think chunk 1 and 4 should be manageable to complete within the 8 hours, but chunk 2 and 3 will be too big of a grind. Anyway, let's roll. Here we go. And the first new chunk of the account is North Alcarib. Okay, nice. Now I think this will be interesting because I'm not sure if there's an easy way to get out of the desert anymore. I also don't know any other chunkers starting in the desert, so I'm curious to see how this will progress. Anyway, let's go in. There's not too much content in this chunk. Wizard Person has a quest that needs rune mystery, so I cannot do it. There's a fire altar that I cannot enter. And then there's a cactus patch, which basically unlocks farming. You can only rake it once every 15 minutes for only 12 XP. I'll be trying to do this as much as possible though. There's a gem store, though I don't have high enough crafting to do anything with it. Finally, one big thing is the shop of Ali, who sells chickens for 1 GP. This basically unlocks cooking training for me and allows me to have some basic food. So the tasks are pretty simple: rake a farming patch, cook a raw chicken, and reach 30 thieving. The last one I need to start the feud quest. So yeah, I immediately got started on pickpocketing men to get 30 thieving. I also got some cooking levels along the way, and having cheap food meant I could just keep pickpocketing without running low on HP. After almost 2 hours, I already managed to get 30 thieving and had a cash stack of over 6k. My first chunk completed. Awesome. Now I had 6 more hours to kill before the next chunk roll, and I had to decide what to do with it. Looking at the chunks around me, there are a few useful ways to get progress in this account. North of here there's an imp spawn, which together with the usable stove triggers a 58 cooking grind, so I could already start training cooking with raw chickens. East of here, in Emir's arena, there's an egg spawn, which can trigger a 58 fletching grind once I have access to a chisel. This is because I can make emerald bolt tips. There's 5 trees west of the gate that I can train fletching on now. Finally, I can always train combat on demand. Scorpions in the mine to the north are aggressive until 29 combat, and I would need 30 defense for Eddie plate legs if I roll Alcarid to the south. I decided to start out with cooking since I could not see an easy way to train cooking any better in the surrounding chunks, so I might as well do it here. In total I will need to cook 7500 raw chickens to get to level 58, which would normally cost me 7500 gold. However, I quickly found out that my main man Ali, the greatest salesman to ever live, also sells you random stuff. Now most of these items only cost 1 GP in his store, but he actually takes 10 GP from you when he sells you it. He does this every time when you trade him, and I need to trade him twice to fill my inventory of 22 spots. This means instead of spending 22 GP for these 22 chickens, it actually cost me 42 GP, almost double the amount. So after 2 hours I ran low on money and I decided to start training my combat on men instead. There's not much to report here since without access to a bank or a general store there was not much I can do with the drops on them. I saved the fishing bait, runes and arrows and did keep burying bones to train my prayer. There were a few random events with lambs that I put into Hunter, but nothing too exciting. I was also hoping for some interesting clues, but I only got a beginner and an easy clue that were in chunks close to me, but not actually in the chunks that I have access to. Overall, in the last 4 hours I got my attack and strength to 30 and my defense to 28. Overall not bad. That's it for this chunk. We did complete all the tasks, and for most, I'm very happy that we've unlocked the first chunk permanently. We did get almost 100 levels in this chunk, but also we almost tripled the total experience. Alright, let's go for the next roll. Here is the current chunk map. Because Lumbridge is still locked for 4 more rolls, there's currently only 3 rollable chunks. The only thing to do here is get 30 defense and get enough money to buy Mithos scimitar and Eddie plate legs. Still, this is a highly valuable chunk since it gives me access to a bank again and also has a general store. Chunk 2 on the east has nothing to offer at the moment, so it will be a free chunk. However, it has an egg spawn, so if I roll both chunk 1 and 2, it will trigger a 58 fletching grind. The chunk to the north is Alcarid Mine. I will need to get 90 mining because of the shooting star spawn. It also has an imp spawn, so I will need to get 58 cooking. I will need this to make a pita bread. Alright, let's go. And the new chunk will be Alcarid. Nice. Not necessarily the chunk with the most content to do now, but I'm happy that I have access to a bank and a general store again. I first had a quick look at everything that is in here. Outside the bank and the general store, it also has a tanner and furnace. I have a few cowites in the bank, but other than that none of these allow consistent trading methods for me at the moment. There's of course some other stores such as the scimitar store and the plate leg store and the crafting store. The latter allows me to make jewelry in the future. Then there's the Sorcerer's Garden minigame, but I can only access it after Prince Ali Rescue, which will require access to a lot of chunks beforehand. One final relevant store is the kebab seller. So far, chickens is my best food, which heal only 3. Kebab has a bit of a random outcome, but with my current HP level it heals around 6 on average, so this is a substantial improvement. The only annoying thing is that I have to follow a dialogue every time to just buy a single kebab. The tasks in this chunk are pretty straightforward. The main objective is getting 30 defense and getting some money to buy a Mithos scimitar and Eddie plate legs. I immediately got started to train 30 defense on the Alcarid warriors. I was already 28, so it only took me like 30 minutes. The drop tables of the warriors are pretty much identical to level 2 men, so there's nothing interesting to report here. Training on them is a bit easier since they have more than double the HP on them. Afterwards, I needed a good way to make money. Of course, I could always go back to pickpocketing. However, there's not really a good reason to train thieving at the moment, so I instead decided to train fletching. I have access to 5 regular trees outside the Alcarid gate. With some world hopping, I can get 25 logs per inventory, fletch them into unstrung longbows, and sell them to the general store. After timing this process a few times, I saw that this run took me roughly 4 minutes, meaning around 3700 fletching experience per hour. Not very good, but since there are barely any trees in the desert, the best possible way for now. If I roll Emir's Arena next, I need 58 fletching, and this will be roughly a 90-hour grind with current XP rates. After around an hour and a half I got enough cash for the scimitar and the ID plate legs, which means another chunk completed. Nice. I continued to train fletching and make some more money until the 4-hour mark, after which I wanted to train cooking some more. The potential 90-hour fletching grind is not really achievable anytime soon anyway. The potential 58 cooking grind, however, is far more reasonable. With around 25k cooking experience per hour, this would only take me 9 hours to get. Making progress on this just seemed like a far better use of my time. Because of the world hopping, I did not really get any random events. I did try to rake my farming patch whenever I saw it was possible to do so. Overall, I made some good cooking progress, with roughly only 2 hours away from level 58. Overall in this chunk I got around 40 levels, mostly from cooking and fletching, though I also almost double my XP so far. Overall I'm very happy with having another chunk completed, especially one that also allows me access to a bank and a store. And time's up. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on my progress, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or tips, leave them in the comments below. Have a nice day and see you next time.